Good afternoon, students. Welcome to week 9. And then in this week 9, we're going to discuss chapter 9 about reference group and word of mouth. What you're going to learn in chapter 9, here are the several learning objectives. The first one, you will learn about the credibility of the reference group and then their influence on the consumer behavior, and then understand the persuasive power and credibility for spokesperson, endorser, celebrities, salesperson, and vendors, and then understand the dynamics and measurement of opinion leader and word of mouth, and also strategic application of word of mouth, also diffusion of innovation. After this slide, we're going to discuss about what is reference group. But as you can see on the picture, how a father playing with their children, this just show that a family is actually a part of the reference group, and family that we're going to discuss on next week is the most important reference group, because this is the first time the children will receive some education about buying product and education to become a customer. The first part that we're going to discuss is about the credibility of reference group and their influence on the consumer behavior. Reference group is a group that serves as a source of comparisons, influence, and norms for people's opinions, values, and behavior. The example for reference group, it could be your friends, classmate, your family, or maybe your teacher. They will give some influence or share some norms for you. They share their opinion, values, and behavior. And for example, for your classmate, usually they have the same demographic as yours. They will give you some comparison about how they're consumed or buying some product. Those who become your reference group, it could have some source credibility. Based on its definition, is a source's persuasive impact stemming from its perceived expertise, trustworthiness, and believability. It could be a professor who quite expert on specific fields. It could be a doctor that, in your opinion, or you perceive them to have some health understanding on health issues. It could be a celebrity who you admire most, or maybe an athlete who have some good achievement that would increase your trustworthiness and believability to their existence. There are basically two types of reference group. The first one is a membership group, and then the second one is symbolic group. Membership group is a group to which a person belongs to or realistically can join. Just for example, this is your gang, like you are being friends with several close friends and you always hang out together, going to the mall, and then meet them in a coffee shop and chat. So you realistically make friends with them. And then symbolic groups is a group to which an individual is unlikely to belong, but whose values and behavior that persons or you adopt. So could be an athlete that you admire, for example, Federer, a tennis athlete, and you try to always adopt the way Federer use their clothes, wear the clothes, and then you adopt any kinds of brand that Federer always use during the tennis match. There are two types of group influence. For a reference, the first one is a normative influence, consists of learning and adapting a group's norms, values, and behavior, while the comparative influence is a rise when people compare themselves to others whom they respect and admire, and then adopt some of those people's values and imitate their behavior. Normative influence is usually happened in a family or in education or school, which they will share about norms, values, and their students' or children's behavior. Just for example, parents in a family, they usually always support their children to eat a good nutrition food. then it's a normative influence. And for example, if your older sister or older brother, they always influence you to behave in a good way, then it's a normative influence. The comparative influence here happen when you are have a same demographic demographic level with the other persons. You try to imitate the other people's behavior. It also can be someone who has a higher position as yours, for example, your boss. And then here you can also see tables 9.1, which is they try to show a group membership and according to the type of influence. If you are part of a membership group, and then the normative influence usually will have a high level of conformity. It means you have to always follow the standard of the membership group, for example, your friends and family. While on the comparative influence, they're quite apart on the social economics, but uh, but they understand that they know each other. And then in the symbolic groups, there is no significant influence if it comes to a normative influence, while on the comparative influence, there are a high degree of influence where you admire some athlete or something, then you imitate their behavior, and then there are some of a part relationship, but the influencer usually will recognize the degree of their influence. There are several reference groups according to the consumption related. The first one is a friendship group. Just for example, you and your close friends, you always have a close relationship, and then you always doing some discussion together, going to a coffee together, and you can share your interests, your hobbies, and sometimes you influence one to another because you can also recommend other products to your friends. And then shopping groups, for example, if you are a membership of a shopping stores or of stores, and you can also recommend your friends to also become the customer or the members of the stores, and then you will get some benefits. Then it means that you try to give some influence to your friends to also become a member. Virtual communities, for example, if you're part of the Instagram official group, or maybe you become a part of photography clubs in Instagram, some of them usually will share how they will use this component to their camera or something, and they will also share hobbies or shares knowledge on the virtual communities. Advocacy group, for example, if you are a membership of a social non-government organization, for example, you're a group of students who against drugs user, for example, the use of drugs, then you can share it to the other customer, to the other young people about how drug is not good and else. So it means that you can also give some influence there. Now, how about factors that affecting difference group influence? Or we can also call it conformity. Conformity here is how you adjust yourself if you're part of a group. You adjust yourself to have the same standard with the groups. There are several things that they must do in order to make the conformity level higher. The first one, to make sure that you inform about a brand or product, that there's a product or a brand exists uh, around your group, and then provide the opportunity to compare thinking with the attitude or behavior of the group. So it means that you have to start to share about your opinion about the brand, and then influence individual to adopt the attitude or behavior so it will be consistent with the group norms. Just for example, if one of your friends using a different brand of smartphone, then you can try to support them to also use the same brand as yours, and legitimize the members' decision to use the same product as others members. So this is the things that if you are a part of the friendship group, and how you try to give some influence to your friends. Another things of factors that effective reference group influence beside conformity is a group power or expertise. So it means that you should be someone who has a good expertise on something, and it could be someone who's quite charismatic on the group, so they will usually share their opinion, be brave and confident enough to share their opinions. And relevant information and experiences, if someone who has some experience, who has a relevant information, then they could become a source of information and will influence someone else on the group. And the other one is a product conspicuousness. So here we can see on the table 9.3 that there are some products, they have some their own conspicuousness and how they will let the other people to finally adopt because of the trait or the personality of the product itself. Just for example, piercing. If your friends in a group they have pierce, yeah, if you're male, yeah, I think it's not quite normal. But if you have some peers, then and you have a close relationship or you're part of the group, then you can also actually being influenced to use peers too. And tattoo, jewelry, and then and there's another product which has no really conspicuousness at all, like a toothpaste. Usually toothpaste is not easy being adapted by other people's because it will be depends on their preference. And then undergarment and contact lenses also is not quite always easy to being adapted by the other person in a group. Now we can continue to the second learnings of objective is to understand the persuasive power, credibility of a spokesperson, endorsers, celebrities, salesperson, vendors, and also media. It is important for a company to also build credibility. And how to build credibility, there are several things that we have to pay attention on. The first one is the past performance of the company. So we have to make sure that we have a good one. And good reputation, I think this is also will depend on whether the performance of the company on the previous year or the previous experience, and then the quality of the product, how we perform, that our product shows some quite a good quality, good service, image, and attractiveness of a spokesperson's reputation of the retailers that carry our offerings. Just for example, if your product being sold in a place which is not quite a good reputation, and it will also influence how your product being sold by the customer. But if your product being placed in a good stores, then a customer will also see your product positively, and it also makes sense. Media that where they advertise. So there's a lot of company then being competitive on enough on placing their advertisement in a good media because they thought that they will get a good customer too. And the last one is institutional advertising. So as you perhaps have learned that institutional advertising is not advertise about the product, but they advertise about the company's philosophy and values, that the purpose of doing this is in order to move or shift perception of customer toward product. We have learned previous meeting about how endorsers should be have some synergy with the type of product, and then they should have some similar demographic side, and then they have to gain some trust from the customer and make sure that the message content congruent with the spokesperson qualification. Okay, on the next part, we're going to discuss about celebrity uses in advertisement. There will be a 4, a testimonial, endorsement, actor, and spokesperson. Please refer on the next link.